On the seventh Sunday of the season, we call to mind the purposes section of the proposed revision of the Unitarian Universalist bylaws, which says, the purpose of the Unitarian Universalist Association is to actively engage its members in the transformation of the world through liberating love.
Our opening hymn is number 85, Although This Life is But a Wraith. Please rise as you are willing and able.
Good morning. I'm Heidi Levine. My pronouns are she and hers, and I'm your celebrant this morning.
I'm the Reverend Meredith Garmon, Z0 or he, him, interim minister.
Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. Our building is located on land that has been home to humans for 12,000 years, including the Iowa, Sauk, and Meskwaki. Other animals, such as the gray wolf, once roamed these lands in much greater numbers. As we enter this space, the ghosts of humans and other animals past are among us. We are called to join in the work of education, reparation, and healing for all species.
Our purpose is to associate ourselves together for the study and practice of morality and religion as interpreted by the growing thought and noblest lives of humanity, hoping thereby to prove helpful one to another and to promote truth, righteousness, and love in the world.
This bond of union is reiterated in our mission to love radically, grow ethically and spiritually, and serve justly.
It's a blessing you were born. It matters what you do. Your experience of the divine is true, and you don't have to go it alone.
Today is the seventh Sunday of spring. The moon is waning crescent and will be new Tuesday night. Solar Beltane, the precise midpoint between the vernal equinox and summer solstice, came at 6:59 a.m. today, and so we are now into the second half of spring.
On the Christian calendar, Thursday, May 9, is the Feast of the Ascension, commemorating the 40th day after Easter, when the Christian story says Jesus bodily ascended to heaven. And today is the 5th Sunday of Ordinary Time and the 6th Sunday of Easter, counting up to Pentecost on May 19.
A special welcome to our visitors. And for those of you who are joining us on Zoom this morning, thanks for tuning in, and please make sure your mics are muted. And those who are here with us, please make sure your phones are also muted. If you are here with children, there is childcare, or feel free to keep your children seated with you or utilize our play area in the back. Newcomers are invited to a UU Curiosity conversation on the first Sunday of every month, and that is today. So since today is the first Sunday, there will be one following the service in the back of the auditorium. If you are new or relatively new, please do join us.
Our connection circles are small groups that gather together to explore the monthly theme and build relationship. It's a key way that we live out our mission to grow ethically and spiritually. If you're not in one, please sign up and become a part of a group. Our theme for the month of May is Courage. Issues of connecting on that theme are available just outside the doors. And so we begin with the lighting of our chalice.
Please say with me the chalice lighting words found in your order of service. We light our chalice as a reminder of who we are called to be in a world still dangerous and despairing. With courage and faith, we bring ourselves to the work before us. Our responsive invocation is number 519 in the Gray Hymnal, from the Indian poet and writer Rabindranath Tagore. The side on my left will begin with the words in plain type, and the side on my right will respond with the indented italicized words. Let me not like to be sheltered from dangers,
but to be fearless in facing them.
Let me not beg for the stilling of my pain,
but for the heart to conquer it.
Let me not look for allies in life's battlefield,
but to my own strength.
Let me not crave an anxious fear to be saved,
but hope for the patience to win my freedom.
Grant me that I might not be a coward, feeling your mercy in my success alone.
But let me find the grasp of your hand in my failure.
For our song invocation, the words can be found in your order of service.
What to do with a problem? Coming to us from Kobe Yamada. I don't know how it happened, but one day I had a problem. I didn't want it. I didn't ask for it. I didn't like having a problem, but it was there. Why is it here? What does it want? What do you do with a problem? I thought. I wanted to make it go away. I shooed it. I scowled at it. I tried to ignore it, but nothing worked. I started to worry about my problem. What if it swallows me up? What if my problem sneaks up and gets me? What if my problem takes all my things away? I worried a lot. I worried about what would happen. I worried about what could happen. I worried about this and I worried about that. And the more I worried, the bigger my problem became. I wished that it would just disappear. I tried everything I could to hide from it. I even found ways to disguise myself, but it still found me. And the more I avoided my problem, the more I saw it everywhere. I thought about it all the time. I didn't feel good at all. I couldn't take it anymore. This has to stop, I declared. Maybe I was making my problem bigger and scarier than it actually was. After all, my problem hadn't really swallowed me up or attacked me. I realized that I had to face it. So, even though I didn't want to, and even though I was really afraid, I got ready and I tackled my problem. When I got face to face with it, I discovered something. My problem wasn't what I thought it was. I discovered that it had something beautiful inside. My problem held an opportunity. It was an opportunity for me to learn and to grow, to be brave, to do something. It showed me that it was important to look closely because some opportunities only come once. So now I see problems differently. I'm not afraid of them anymore because I know their secret. Every problem has an opportunity for something good. You just have to look for it.
Right, we're singing the children out. We will now sing the children out. Words are in the order of service. Go in joy, go in peace to meet the day. With open hearts embrace life's wonder. We will guide you, we will love you on your way.
Is Teresa Miller here? Shh. So, yeah. Right, sure, let's do the bells. Thank you, Karen.
This is what you get when you double book. I'm Teresa Miller, she, hers. I'm on the grounds council. We are having a work day Saturday to address the honeysuckle, which is taking over our corner of the world. Please come, long sleeves, long pants, work gloves. There's poison ivy in the woods, and we'll find something for you to do 9 to 1-ish. If we're having a good time, we'll stay later. See you later.
My name is Barb Glass. I'm a pastoral care associate for our congregation, your congregation. Your pastoral care team is here to help you process any significant transition. Please speak to me or any member of our pastoral care team or email pastoralcareteam@ucdsm.org. We will now collectively bear witness to journeys within our community. We have this sorrow from Amy Anderson Sorensen. She says, my father, Jim Anderson of Boone, Iowa, passed away on Monday due to liver failure. He slipped into a coma Saturday night at the hospital after showing confusion at home. He passed away peacefully with my mom, sister, and I at his side. Some might remember that my dad suffered a severe traumatic brain injury 10 years ago. We have been grateful to have had the last decade with him, and that he and our two-year-old twins were able to know one another before he died. We recently celebrated my dad's 74th birthday, and we will have happy memories of that time together. Dana and I appreciate any encouraging thoughts as we try to balance grieving with work, toddlers, and supporting my mom. Elijah and Anna Evans are grateful and joyful to have closed on their first house this week. Their new home is located here in the Grays Lake neighborhood. We have learned that Misty Craig had a heart attack and is in Mercy ICU downtown. Chloe, their oldest daughter, says that your prayers and good wishes are so appreciated. And now it is my special honor to welcome my friends, Gina and Ron and Eileen, and their families this morning, their first time back in church. There is a memorial table for Chandler, and with programs of Friday night celebration of life for Chandler for his event, if you were not able to attend. They are very grateful for all the support, cards, and foods they have received from the church community. We love you. Let us share now together the names of anyone we know who could use some special care and attention. You may call the names out loud or type it into the chat. As we share these names, may the love of this community hold them all.
Dear Spirit of love, our hearts fill with wonder when we consider the mysterious and magnificent ways of creation, the work of love in the world, the mystery of existence, that there should be something rather than nothing, the mystery of life and of this capacity to love. And amidst this, too, are storms that wreak havoc. This week in our country, tornadoes ripped apart homes and lives, clouds of dust from the Sahara Desert blanketed Greece, heavier than usual snowfall in Finland, weeks of rain caused devastating floods in Kenya, flooding in China destroyed infrastructure and caused many deaths. Spirit of love, awaken our hearts, that we may care for those affected by severe weather, that we may learn to better care for this planet, our only home, that we might learn to live in harmony with all creation. There is so much for which to be grateful. The tireless work of rescue teams in Australia, who worked to save 130 pilot whales from a mass beaching, and authorities in Canada working to free a stranded orca calf. May we steward well the resources of this planet and heighten our awareness of the myriad ways we affect the land, plants, and animals, both in life-giving and in life-taking ways. May we act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with ourselves and with one another and all creation. Beauty surrounds us, as does tragedy, and there is an ultimate joy behind both. May we remember this day and every day how good is creation. Let our eyes be open. Let our hearts, our minds, and our hands be open, that we might partner with all creation in co-creating beloved community.
May the light of our community shine on the broken places of the world. And may we not look away when we are needed. May we confront what is cruel, heal what is broken, and delight in what is good. We light 3 candles, one for the joys and sorrows shared aloud, one for those shared in writing, and one for those held silently among us. For all of these, we now observe a minute of silence.
I love Broadway musicals, and I especially love Stephen Sondheim's musicals. One of my favorites is Into the Woods. The interwoven fairy tales were funny and touching, and the music was some of Sondheim's best. But what most resonated with me about that show were the truths conveyed through the story of people wishing for more and having to face their fears to seek what they longed for in their lives. As Sondheim's lyrics brilliantly stated, though it's fearful, though it's deep, though it's dark, and then though you may lose your path into the woods and through the fear, you have to take the journey into the woods to get the thing that makes it worth the journeying. During the time Into the Woods was first staged, I was working as a therapist in a college counseling center. And maybe that's part of what made this show so meaningful to me. Every day, I was working with young people who had to be willing to go into the woods of their own psyches, their wounds, traumas, fears, and hopes, in order to get the thing that made it worth the journeying, living their lives more fully, authentically, and joyfully. As anyone who has ever been in therapy knows, it is hard and scary work. Who knows what painful memory may be lurking there and how you'll come through that encounter. But just as in the musical's story, there is also no escaping the need to go to that dark and scary place in order to reach the goal. There aren't shortcuts or bypasses. Sure, for some of us, there may be tools like medication that make it possible for us to even try. But if we're wounded, grieving, unsure, the only way to the other side is through. And that takes so much courage. Some of the bravest people I've ever known were the students who trusted me to be their guide and companion on those journeys. It's been years, okay, like now more like decades, since I worked with them, but I carry with me the lessons I learned from those amazing humans. One who has particularly stayed with me was a young woman I'll call Mary, who had been so severely abused as a child that she had cut herself off from feeling anything. When Mary entered counseling, she described herself as being depressed. Really, she felt nothing, no pain or hurt, but also no love or true happiness. Because that's how emotional numbing works. It's not like you selectively pick and choose which feelings you'll let in and which you won't. When you're numb, you're cut off from all of it and from your full self. What Mary wanted was to be able to feel happiness, to feel more alive. But it was incredibly frightening to contemplate really looking at the trauma she had experienced and understanding how it had shaped her. It took a long time and so very much courage for Mary to allow herself to wade through that past hurt and to feel. But the day she came to my office and wept as she described the joy she had felt watching baby squirrels play in her backyard, I will never forget my joy in being witness to that. It may sound like a small thing, but I was witnessing Mary coming more fully alive to all that life held. We haven't all experienced deep trauma, but to be alive means that we have experienced pain, disappointment, perhaps shame. It's tempting, but to cut off those experiences means cutting off part of ourselves. Having the courage to brave those woods, even though it's deep and dark and for a time we may lose our path, holds the promise of reaching the thing that makes it worth the journeying, the prize to deeply know ourselves and be present in our own lives. We come now to the offering. As the basket is passed, we remember again our association's purpose, to actively engage its members in the transformation of the world through liberating love. For the support of this purpose, the offering will be gratefully given and gratefully received.
Courage. Some of you might remember that newscaster Dan Rather back in 1986 took to signing off the CBS Evening News by looking into the camera and saying, "Courage." Dan Rather, reporting from New York, courage. Good night. He only used that sign off for 1 week, 5 days, and it stirred some controversy and puzzlement. Was Rather advising viewers to grow a backbone? Was he dismayed at the state of affairs, telling us to hang in there through such tough times as he had just been reporting on? And as we take up courage as our theme to explore for the month of May, we confront related questions. What really is the point of extolling this supposed virtue called courage? In the military context, the carrot and stick combination of praise for courageous action and condemnation of cowardly action does, I guess, make for an effective rhetoric for motivating soldiers in battle. But any active duty military personnel who might be among us notwithstanding, do we civilians find the twin concepts of courage and cowardice playing much of a role in our day-to-day lives? Do you use those words when you are giving yourself a talking to? Do they show up on job evaluations that you get or give? To talk about courage, we have to talk about fear. And if we're going to find a truly meaningful use for the notion of courage, it will grow out of how we understand how fear operates. Courage, as every writer on the subject reminds us at the outset, is not an absence of fear. Courage is what we call it when, in a fearful situation, the fear is managed in a particularly skillful or admirable way. Animals, humans and otherwise, are built to have fear. The main function of fear and anxiety is to act as a signal of danger, of threat, or motivational conflict, and to trigger appropriate adaptive responses. Fear is very valuable. We couldn't survive without fear. We animals need mechanisms that grab our attention and steer us away from danger. Even those species with highly sophisticated reasoning processes still need systems of fear reaction because they are quicker and sometimes time is of the essence. You've got head, reason, and you've got gut, feelings and intuitions. If you want reasoning, head is going to have to stop and think. Maybe jot down some notes, talk it over with others. This is how we reason. But if you need a snap judgment, gut is there for you. Gut does not worry with having to explain itself. Often you can't explain your hunches or your intuitions. Your gut, operating below the radar of consciousness, checks for the most readily available examples it can find in brain's storage. If an alley looks a certain way, you'll feel uneasy about walking down it because gut has grabbed a quickly accessible memory of something you saw in a movie in which someone walked down an alley like this and got attacked. Gut cannot even tell the difference between your firsthand experience and someone else's stories. Gut believes the examples that are most readily available at hand. Head is going to want to look at the statistics, the odds of this or that outcome. Statistics completely fail to hold gut's attention. Gut believes the examples that are most ready at hand. 1 or 2 lurid stories will suffice for gut. On the other hand, animals, humans and otherwise, also have drives that sometimes override fear and self-preservation, which might be called the biological basis of courage, or might simply be called courage itself. Theologian Paul Tillich, in his 1952 book, The Courage to Be, put it this way: the balance between fear and courage is well developed in the animal realm. Animals are warned by fear, but under special conditions, they disregard their fear and risk pain and annihilation for the sake of those who are part of their own self-affirmation, e.g., their descendants or their flock. I'll be coming back to Tillich later. I originally selected a picture of Bert Lahr as the cowardly lion from the film Wizard of Oz to be on the cover of today's order of service about courage. Tracy told me we couldn't use that because those images are copyrighted. So she directed me to a site of public domain photos, and I picked a macaw. And I texted Laura Kim, who's down in Guyana this week organizing parrot conservation, to tell her we were going to have a macaw on our order of service. And she texted back and said, "They are very brave. They risk their lives for their chicks, though not always." I texted back, not to mention how brave it is to show up in public wearing those colors. Anyway, that bit about not always is important. Evolution built us to have competing drives. We have drives for self-preservation, and these manifest as fear. We also have competing drives to set aside self-preservation and fear for the sake of our children or our tribe. That's evolution's strategy. Give us these competing drives and let us work out the balance, sometimes risking our life for the sake of the chicks, sometimes not. Which drive will prevail in a given circumstances is partly determined by prior experience with similar circumstances. If a similar threat has been successfully chased off in the past, we're more likely to try to face it down. And it's partly determined by genetic variations. Some people and some macaws are born with a little less or a little more inclination toward personal safety, or a little less or a little more proclivity to sacrifice for the sake of offspring or tribe. It's good to have this variation in nature because the world is constantly changing, and sometimes a little bit stronger self-preservation is the best way to get your genes passed on, and sometimes a little bit stronger protectiveness of children or of tribe is the best way. But then, somewhere along the line, along the growth of the evolution tree, the human twig off of the primate branch developed symbolic language. And we started using words to influence that balance between self-preservation, which we became apt to condemn as cowardly, and willingness to endure personal danger, which we might praise as courageous, though sometimes we condemn it too as rash or foolhardy. The Wizard of Oz's cowardly lion wants the wizard to give him courage because he wants to face challenges that come his way and also wants to command respect and admiration. He represents, of course, not lions, but a certain type of human. And humans, through our symbolic language, are such a hyper-social species that we really want respect and admiration. But we also just want to be safe, hence the lion's conundrum. But just as our words can egg us on to be courageous, the reality we collectively weave with language can also magnify our fears. On the one hand, for instance, we have language describing the sources of the living tradition we Unitarian Universalists share. One of those sources is words and deeds of prophetic people that challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love. When we talk about the prophets, when we speak of our prophetic mission or our prophetic voice to the world, we're drawing on a tradition that goes back to the ancient Hebrew prophets. Figures like Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Isaiah, Amos, Hosea. And we're thinking about how these figures spoke as the social critics of their time. Standing outside the structures of power, they called the ruling regime to task for failing to live up to its principles, for breaking the covenant. Sometimes they predicted what the consequences would be for having strayed from the right path, and thus the popular understanding of prophecy as predicting the future is not entirely without basis, but the core of what made them prophets was speaking truth to power, the call for social justice, not predicting the future. And so when we Unitarian Universalists today call upon this tradition of prophets, we mean to honor the voices for social justice, those who call us all to courage, the courage to stand up to oppression and harm, the courage to witness to and embody the transforming power of love. The prophets of old ventured into predictions of the future, and yes, they used fear. They warned the people of Israel that their corrupt religion and disregard for the poor would result in destruction of the nation. They called for Israel to repent or face fearful judgment of wrath. So usually it's not a simple matter of fear versus courage. The prophets used fear for one thing. They used fear of one thing in their effort to evoke courage in facing a different fear, the insecurity that the powerful feared if they allowed there to be justice. Today, we speak out against harm to our environment, to our ecosystems, to our climate, to our planet, invoking modern-day predictions of doom and destruction. And we do so in the hope of spurring the courage to leave behind the comforts of our high consumption lifestyle. I will pick up from there after our interlude. Once we had symbolic language, we could conjure up imagined scenarios for each other, and the potential disasters grab our attention a lot more than potential benefits. So the balance or the tension that evolution built into animals got thrown off in that animal with symbolic language. We talk ourselves into quite the dither of fear. We are awash in scared people earnestly talking others into being scared. After the 9/11 attacks in 2001, fear of airplanes went up, as you might imagine. Analyzing patterns of car use and airplane travel after 9/11 shows there was a shift from airplanes to cars that lasted about 1 year. It took a year for the fear of airplanes to die down and return to normal levels. And in the meantime, people were putting more miles on their car. The thing is, airplane travel is safer. The automobile travel went up, and so did traffic fatalities. Gerd Gigerenzer analyzed the numbers and was able to deduce that the extra car travel in the year after 9/11 killed 1,595 people. That is, the number of Americans killed by car crashes as a direct result of the switch from planes to cars was just shy of 1,600. Those were people who would not have died if the ratio of plane travel to car travel had stayed the same as it was in the years preceding 9/11. The actual collapse of the Twin Towers killed less than 3,000 people. The increased fear of airplanes over the next year killed over half again that many. Things that spook us include, in no particular order, tornadoes, internet stalkers, crystal meth, avian flu, genetically modified organisms, contaminated food, contaminated water, contaminated air, climate change, carcinogens, clowns, breast implants, the obesity epidemic, pesticides, the next viral pandemic that will be much worse than the last one, Ebola, West Nile virus, mad cow disease, flesh-eating diseases, alien invasion, the international kind, alien invasion, the interplanetary kind, spiders, road rage, pedophiles lurking in parks and internet chat rooms, spontaneous combustion, satanic cults, heroin, herpes, hitchhikers, computer hackers, identity thieves, genetically enhanced bioweapons, self-replicating nanotechnology that turns everything into gray goo, AI robots that decide humans are unnecessary, weird experiments in physics that could create a black hole destroying the planet, and sharks. There seem to be an awful lot to be scared of. It is the slogan of our times. Be afraid. Be very afraid. At home, children are forbidden from playing alone outdoors, as all generations did before, because their parents are convinced every bush hides a pervert. As it happens, as Daniel Gardner points out in The Science of Fear, Why We Fear the Things We Shouldn't and Put Ourselves in Greater Danger, obesity, diabetes, and other health problems caused in part by too much time sitting inside are a lot more dangerous than the specters haunting parental imaginations. We overestimate the risk from things that make the evening news and underestimate the risk from things that don't. Murder, terrorism, airplanes flying into buildings, fire, flood, and sharks seize our fearful imaginations. But risks like diabetes, asthma, and heart disease and auto accidents are much greater, but they're boring. Maybe it's time for the word courage to take a bigger place when giving yourself a talking to. As Noam Spencer says, fear is an important consultant, but a lousy boss. As you set out to cultivate courage, the first step I suggest is to notice that, like the lion in The Wizard of Oz, you've always had it. The lion was quite brave in the scenes of taking on the Wicked Witch, and in the book, though this isn't in the movie, there's a scene where Dorothy and the companions encounter creatures that are half tiger, half bear, called Kalidas, and the lion initially cowers in fear, but then summons his courage, leaps forward, lets out a mighty roar, and the Kalidas scatter in fear. Later, the wizard recognizes that people called heroes haven't got any more courage than the lion has, but they do have one thing you haven't got, a medal. So the wizard gives the lion a medal to symbolize his courage and serve as a reminder that though fear may sometimes well up in him, he is courageous. Following that model, it might be helpful to designate some object or trinket to serve for you, like a medal for your conspicuous bravery, a token reminder and symbol that you are courageous. As a further way to hold in mind and in heart that you are already courageous, call to mind the substantial courage you exhibit in daring to exist. You got a lot of nerve. Showing up on this planet morning after morning, there you are, the audacity. This is the courage that Paul Tillich elucidated in The Courage to Be. The courage to be, Tillich says, is the ethical act in which we affirm our own being in spite of those elements of our existence which conflict with our essential self-affirmation. We saw that phrase, self-affirmation, earlier when I cited Tillich observing that animals, human and otherwise, are warned by fear but under special conditions disregard fear and risk pain and annihilation for the sake of those who are a part of their own self-affirmation, e.g. their descendants or their flock. To be as the beings we are, to affirm ourselves, is itself ground of our care of offspring or flock or tribe. To be, to affirm that we are, like Ilsa in Frozen singing, "Here I stand and here I stay, let the storm rage on," is an act of courage. The courage to be for Tillich has two aspects. There is the courage to be as a part, the courage to bring your being to participate in a larger being with others. And then there is the courage to be as oneself, a unique individual and an end unto yourself, not a means toward any group goal. We face anxiety about dying and the unpredictability of fate and fortune, moral anxiety about guilt and condemnation, and the spiritual anxiety of emptiness and meaninglessness. These anxieties conflict with our self-affirmation. So to affirm who we are in the face of these anxieties, to affirm our being in spite of existential anxiety, that's the courage to be. We enact this courage in those two ways, by participating in a larger whole that helps sustain our own existence and others, and by individuating as worthy in ourselves, balancing between extremes of too much collectivism and too much individualism. I was intrigued to see that while courageous and brave are nearly perfect synonyms, they come from wildly different etymological origins which over centuries converged. Courage comes from heart as the seat of emotions, as in the French word for heart, cœur, the Spanish corazón, the Italian cuore. From heart, referring to one's spirit, temperament, or frame of mind, it came to mean valor, or the quality that allows for meeting dangers and troubles without being controlled by fear. So when Dan Rather said courage, he could have said take heart, and conveyed about the same idea. Brave, however, started from the Latin pravus, meaning crooked, depraved, and it became the medieval Latin bravus, meaning cutthroat, villain, which evolved then to mean wild and savage. From there, wild and savage was more and more closely associated with meeting dangers and troubles without being hindered by fear, until it meant, finally, about the same thing as courageous. And these roots nicely parallel Tillich's two aspects of courage: the courage to be as a part of collective projects and the courage to be as oneself. Courage from heart as the symbol of love connects us to others so we can face dangers for the sake of our joint enterprises. Bravery, in its origins, points to your wild, untamed, nonconformist uniqueness. On the one hand, fear can make me so self-protective I do not hear the call to love, to connect with others, to help them in shared difficulties. And on the other hand, fear can make me seek the safety of conformity, going along to get along, not hearing the call to bring forth what I alone can. Against all fears or anxieties about impending death, about the unpredictability of fortune and misfortune, about our feelings of guilt, of having been or possibly becoming condemned by others or by oneself, and the spiritual anxiety of emptiness and meaninglessness. Against all those fears, the courage to be is the inner voice affirming that you are and what you are. On the ground of that courage, we find the courage to face forthrightly all the other fears conjured by gut or head. Meredith Garmon reporting from Des Moines. Courage. Amen.
Our closing hymn is number 119. Please rise as you are willing and able.
Once to every soul and nation,
Please say with me now our unison chalice extinguishing words found in your order of service. The world is too beautiful to be praised by only one voice. May we have the courage to sing our parts. The world is too broken to be healed by only one set of hands. May we have the courage to use our gifts.
4 things. You are good. You are loved. You could use some work. And we're in this together. Go in peace and making peace.